Show yourself!
When Gandalf embarked on his perilous journey in The Lord of the Rings, his plan was far more complex and uncertain than it first appeared.
Now come the days of the king.
Guiding the ring-bearer to Mount Doom may have been the goal, but the path was anything but clear. Betrayals, unexpected allies, and the volatile power of the One Ring itself constantly forced him to adapt. What was Gandalf's original strategy? Did he even have one? Or was the journey always destined to spiral beyond his control? From the Fellowship's formation to the breaking of its bonds, we'll uncover how Gandalf's evolving plan was shaped by forces he never could have foreseen. Let's dive into the twists, turns, and untold truths behind the Lord of the Rings trilogy's original journey. Gandalf, as we know from the Lord of the Rings, had to adapt and change his plans multiple times during his journey. He couldn't have anticipated being killed by Druin's Bane, nor could he have foreseen the ways he'd end up helping Rohan or Gondor when he initially left Rivendell. His original plan must have been different from how things eventually played out. By the time he reached Rivendell, his hope was likely that Frodo would make it there with the ring, despite the obstacles of a traitorous wizard and the Nazgul. From Rivendell, Gandalf's strategy would evolve with the Fellowship as events unfolded, leading to improvisations he hadn't foreseen. But what exactly was Gandalf's original plan when he set out from Rivendell with the Fellowship? At that point, he couldn't have been entirely sure how things would go, but he would have crafted at least the start of a plan. Elrond himself admitted that no one, not even the wisest among them, could have predicted that the fate of the world would rest on hobbits, beings who had rarely played a role in the great events of the world before the deeds of Thorin's company. This revelation shows how much Gandalf, Elrond, and the White Council had to rely on adapting to the unexpected, even if they tried to plan ahead. Consider the many unpredictable twists that had already occurred by the time they gathered at Rivendell. Saruman's betrayal, Gollum's bizarre existence and connection to the ring, and the sheer coincidence that Bilbo stumbled upon it during The Hobbit. None of these could have been foreseen. Elrond seemed to recognize that fate, not luck exactly, but the unpredictable hand of destiny, played a huge role in shaping events. When the Fellowship departed Rivendell, Gandalf and Elrond likely understood they couldn't predict everything that would happen. They knew dangers awaited, but not the specifics. Gandalf probably had a plan for the early stages of the journey, such as deciding whether to cross over the mountains or travel through them. Beyond that, it's doubtful he had a detailed strategy. Adventure, by its nature, involves uncertainty, and this was no ordinary adventure. The stakes were monumental, with the fate of Middle-earth hanging in the balance. Gandalf, despite his wisdom and power as a Maya, couldn't know exactly how things would unfold. That said, it seems unlikely that he would have embarked on the journey with no plan at all. Most likely, Gandalf focused on getting the Fellowship to Lothlorien after crossing or passing through the mountains. From there, his ideas were likely vague, guiding Frodo toward Mordor, while protecting him and the ring from the many threats along the way. The journey's unpredictability, however, required Gandalf to adapt constantly. His original plan, then, was probably just a framework of a larger strategy that would take shape as they progressed, which makes it clear that Gandalf had some form of a plan. As Aragorn himself implied, "We have not decided our course. Beyond Lothlorien, I do not know what Gandalf intended to do. Indeed, I do not think that even he had any clear purpose." Aragorn, who assumed leadership of the Fellowship after Gandalf's fall, offers a valuable perspective. If even he believed Gandalf lacked a definitive plan beyond Lothlorien, this might be the most credible insight available. However, it seems unlikely that Gandalf, with his wisdom and foresight, would embark on such a perilous journey without at least the foundation of a plan to bring the One Ring to Mount Doom. Gandalf's decision to lead the Fellowship to Lothlorien indicates intention rather than chance. Even when he adjusted the route, choosing to pass under the mountains instead of over them, he ensured the path still led to Lothlorien. This was no arbitrary choice. Gandalf could have directed the Fellowship elsewhere, perhaps north toward Mirkwood, following the route Bilbo once took, south toward Gondor, or even westward to the ports of Lindon to sail to a harbor in South Gondor. However, these options were dismissed. The Gap of Rohan was deemed too close to Isengard, and the road southwest to Minas Tirith was considered too lengthy. Such decision implied that Gandalf had at least a rough strategy in mind. He appeared fully aware of the broader situation and chose Lothlorien as a key waypoint. This choice was likely driven by its strategic significance. Lothlorien was not only a safe haven, but also close enough to Mordor for further planning, while being far enough from Gondor to avoid the ring's corrupting influence on men. Gandalf likely wanted to keep the ring away from Gondor and its rulers for as long as possible, knowing the dangers it posed to those in positions of power, such as Denethor and Boromir. Lothlorien's role in Gandalf's plan was likely tied to the wisdom and resources of Galadriel. It is plausible that he intended to use his counsel or the insights offered by her mirror to determine the next steps. Additionally, he may have considered involving other allies, such as Radagast and the beings of the Northern Wilds, who had supported him before. Their knowledge and abilities could have complemented his strategy for guiding the Fellowship and ultimately defeating Sauron. Gandalf's actions suggest that while his plan may not have been fully developed, it was not non-existent. His decision to lead the Fellowship to Lothlorien reveals a calculated move to regroup, gather knowledge, and prepare for the final stages of their journey. Even if much of his approach relied on adaptation, the importance of Lothlorien in his strategy cannot be overlooked. But if one were to hazard a guess about Gandalf's plan had he made it in Lothlorien, it's likely he would have aimed for a direct path to Mount Doom, while avoiding unnecessary danger. Knowing Gandalf's history and strategic thinking, he wasn't shy about crossing mountains, as seen with Thorin's company in The Hobbit and the Fellowship's attempt in The Lord of the Rings. It's reasonable to think he might have wanted to travel down the Anduin River using boats, as the company did in his absence. However, instead of following the Fellowship's exact path, he might have led them further east, cutting through the Brownlands, toward the Ash Mountains. From there, Gandalf might have considered climbing the mountains to enter Mordor discreetly, heading directly to Mount Doom. Given his wisdom and reliance on secrecy over brute force, it seems unlikely Gandalf would have chosen the Black Gate, or even the Morgul Road near Cirith Ungol, if he was even aware of that route. Such paths would have posed significant risks, not just to the hobbits, but also to the fate of the ring itself. Instead, he likely would have sought a safer, more covert way over the Ash Mountains. Yet Gandalf's wisdom wasn't just about foresight. It was rooted in observation, faith, and a deep understanding of people. He trusted Bilbo to play a crucial role in the quest for Erebor, without knowing exactly how. Similarly, he knew Frodo was the best choice as ring-bearer, but he didn't demand Frodo carry it further than Rivendell. Gandalf struck a rare balance, actively shaping events in favor of good while allowing the world to unfold naturally, without forcing his will. He nudged the scales toward the West's victory, but didn't micromanage every detail. This approach meant his original plans often shifted significantly due to circumstances. Even the idea of crossing the Ash Mountains might not have been the final plan. Gandalf would have recognized the growing threat of Isengard, especially after the Uruk-hai ambushed the Fellowship and killed Boromir. He'd have realized time was running out, as Rohan and Gondor needed immediate help to avoid falling to their enemies. This is the conclusion Gandalf comes to after his return, as Gandalf the White, when he acknowledges that Frodo and Sam must go on alone while he aids Rohan and Gondor. However, if Gandalf the Grey had survived, it's hard to imagine him letting Frodo and Sam go off by themselves. It's possible that he would have insisted on staying with them, only to be pulled away by the pressing needs of the larger war. This pattern, Gandalf being drawn away by other responsibilities, repeats throughout his life. He's constantly juggling multiple tasks, often forced to adapt and change course. Whether it's confronting new threats or addressing unexpected developments, Gandalf embodies the role of a guiding force rather than a direct participant in every outcome. Looking at this from a broader perspective, it's likely Gandalf knew from the start that he wouldn't accompany Frodo to Mount Doom. Just as Bilbo had to face Smaug alone and Frodo had to carry the ring to Mordor, Gandalf understood that some burdens couldn't be shared. Even if there had been more wizards to help shoulder the load, Gandalf would still have been stretched thin, picking up the slack for others. Ultimately, Gandalf's role wasn't to complete the quest himself, but to set the stage and help others fulfill their roles. He would have done everything in his power to aid Frodo, but he also trusted the process of the world unfolding as it should. Whether as Gandalf the Grey or the White, his choices reflected a deep faith in the resilience and strength of others. So while Gandalf may not have had a detailed plan beyond Lothlorien, he trusted that the right path would reveal itself. As Aragorn said, Gandalf acted with a mix of wisdom, intuition, and faith, deciding what to do with the time he was given. And that wraps up our deep dive into Gandalf's intentions in The Lord of the Rings. So what do you think? Was there an original plan, or was the journey always meant to take unexpected turns? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed uncovering the hidden stories and untold details behind your favorite Hollywood movies, don't forget to subscribe to Director's Cuts. There's so much more to explore, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.